Good afternoon, this is Bob with County Records Research, and we're beginning our Wednesday webinar for December 14th, 2016. Thank you for attending our presentation. And I want to go ahead and point to the fact that we've just activated the visual portion of our presentation. So you all should be able to see the County Records Research main screen. So let me just point a couple things out to you. When you're getting to the home page of the website, you'll notice that we have a banner ad right here in the center for our trustee sale bidding service. If you click on that, then that'll open the section where you can log into your bidding account, or if you haven't set up a bidding account yet, you can go ahead and click here where it says click here, and that gives you the ability to go ahead and set up your bidding service account on the website. Let me point out the bidding service is absolutely free until we buy a property for you. So when you set up the bidding account, you're setting up the option to use the Bid Now button on a website profile on a property on its way to auction in one of the areas where we have a bidder that's working the auction on your behalf. So LA County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, we currently have bidders there 5 days a week to buy properties for you.
Thanks. How you doing?
Okay, I am getting a little background chatter. We've got a few people on. This is a very active day, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the mute option. I do want everyone there to know that you can click the chat window and you can chat questions to me. We encourage you to do that. I am muting the other voices though, just so that everybody can hear me clearly. And again, do take advantage of the chat if you need me to respond to a specific question. The focus of today's presentation is to orient everyone to the website itself and the different functions. So what I just did for those of you that just joined in is I was on the home page of the site here, this is our home page, and I clicked on the banner ad in the center for our trustee sale bidding service. And this demonstrates information about the bidding service. Then I hit the click here option, which is where we set up our bidding service account. Again, a free account doesn't charge you anything at any time. It's simply there to set up the bidding functions. And then if you're going to use our bidding services, then you can use the Bid Now option on any notice of trustee sale profile in order to place your bids and buy properties. Okay, so we just want to let you know that this is free to set up. No harm, no foul if you never use it, but it does give you the advantage of being able to place bids with us. And then once you've placed bids, you need to fill out a power of attorney and have it notarized and bring us the necessary cashier's checks to back your bid up. At the auction, we bid with cashier's checks, we set a maximum price, and then we attend the sale. When we're at the auction, we never know what the opening bid is going to be until the lender calls it. Many times it's a surprise that's lower than anybody expects, and that's an opportunity to cash in and get a property at a great price. Sometimes it's a price that's too high, and in that case we simply don't bid. It's a win-win situation if the price is low and you've got your cashier's checks with us and you're ready to get that deal. I call it grabbing a hold of the low-hanging fruit, because the opportunity with the bidding service is just that. If that property is in the price range you've expected it to be in and we're there with your cashier's checks, you grab the deal. If the price is too high to begin with or someone else bids it up too high, we simply walk away from that. It stops being an opportunity and there's no expense involved. Unless we buy the property, then we do charge a flat fee of $2,900 at the close of an auction. But if I saved $100,000 or more on a property and got myself a heck of a deal, then that $2,900 is a drop in the bucket. So just remember, we're here to answer every question you got on any of the subjects that we cover in today's presentation. And don't forget that Friday we have another presentation which is focused on how to research specific properties and spot the deal. Okay, so now this is again where I set up my bid service account if I don't already have one. If I go back to my home page option, then that takes us back to our home page, and this is where we see all of the information that we provide you, with the exception of the actual search process, which we're going to start in just a few minutes. Before we jump into that, though, I just want to point out what's here on the home page. You'll notice on the left-hand side, this is our dashboard or control panel to access the different pages on the site. So you'll notice that we have our home and login. That's where I click if I want to get into my account by putting in my username and my password. Okay, we're not going to do that yet. We're going to keep going down the page. Now, below login and property search, again, I'll show you that in a moment, is our training and support page. If you got a chance to experience Kurt's presentation, you know he has a lot of information. Now, what we've tried to do is break it into sequential training packages that you can go at one at a time. So Foreclosure 101 is our overview article. Okay, and this is under training and support. It's one of the subtopics. And this is a nice lengthy article that describes the foreclosure process piece by piece and the different methods of purchasing, including buying loans. In this case, the junior lender buyout strategy, which is one that Kurt's used many times. Okay, so this is our overview, Foreclosure 101. Take a look at it. It's well worth your while. Below that is our industry terms and definitions. This is just a basic glossary of different terms you're going to come across in our presentations. Hi, Jeff. How are you? I noticed you had a. I can't.
I'm good, Bob.
I'm good. Okay. It looks like you hit a button that said, "Can you make me the presenter?" I can't do that. I've got a lot of people watching the presentation, so if you hit that by accident, I understand sometimes people do that. But I do have to continue through the process because I've got a lot of ground to cover. It's okay, no worries, no worries. I've had people do that before. Okay, so this is our different terms and definitions, and you'll see that most of the terms you're going to come across are here. If you come across any as we're doing our discussions, or as I make, no problem, Jeff, it's cool. As we make our discussions happen and we cover different facts and trivia, so to speak, you're going to find that there's things that might pop up. If I use a term that you don't recognize, it should be here. If it's not, then you're always welcome to bring that up, and I'll be happy to answer your questions for you and help you to understand you know what I mean when I use a particular phrase. Most of it will be under terms and definitions. Now, below that, we have our free resources and links. Okay, now this is a page of various website links that you can access. You have Flipper Connection, which is a newer company that's come out to give people kind of a sounding board online where people can interface with other investors. So that's Flipper Connection. ForeclosureForum.com is a website that is run by a friend of Kurt's named Ward Hannigan, that is specifically to help you with different questions on investment methods and how to hold trusts, okay, and different ways that you can own your property. Below that are some club links that you can use so that you can get associated with any other clubs you might want to get connected with. Below that, we have a variety of other links that you can access to learn about MERS, to learn about the PACER system, which is how people look into bankruptcy information. There's also a few links for law firms that you might need to have access to, and insurance providers. So this is our links and resources. If you come across anything in your travels that you think might be helpful, don't be afraid to let us know, because the way that we add things to this page is people make reference to different connections they'd like to see on this page, and then we put them on to help people get additional information and to make connections in the market. Below that is our video training. This is one of Kurt's other presentations that he did in the past. So this is an opportunity where you can go ahead and observe one of Kurt's live presentations. We'll answer a few of your questions, maybe cover some of the topics that he already covered in Monday's presentation, but more importantly, every time that you get a chance to absorb more information, you might discover that there's a piece of the puzzle you didn't have before, and the whole key to this is to get as many sources of information from us as possible to develop your base so that you can figure out what to do in any specific situation. Okay. Now, I just saw a note here from Jennifer that she's having trouble hearing. Can everybody else hear me all right? Jennifer was stating that she couldn't hear me. It looks to me like my microphone's working okay. Okay, it looks like, okay, all right, good. It looks like most people can hear. You might want to log out and log back in, Jennifer, and see if you can solve that, but it looks like other people can hear. Okay, so we're going to move ahead. So again, this is a presentation that's recorded. Now, also any of the video recordings that I point out here in my demonstration are also available on our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel under County Records Research, and you're more than welcome to go there. As a matter of fact, today's presentation will be uploaded to our YouTube channel this week so that you'll have access to it. And if any of your friends didn't get a chance to attend today's event live, they can always jump right onto our YouTube channel and see it there. Okay, so that's Kurt's training there. Now below that is our How to Use This website page. This is real basic screen captures. Okay, so these screen captures are presentations that we did to demonstrate different functions of the site. It will recapture a lot of the information we're going to go over now, but again, it's there so that people have access to training information separate and apart from our live events, because we want you to use the site. We want you to master the different techniques that we teach at each webinar. Now on that point, I do want to point out we do this every Wednesday and every Friday from 2:30 to 3:30. On Wednesdays, we're teaching the basics. We're giving you how to navigate the site, a lot of these features and functions. Friday, we're going to go shopping. You're going to find that we're going to get right to doing research and looking at properties. So Wednesdays is good to kind of just get a sense of how we navigate the site. Friday is a better chance to get a sense of how we research properties. But I am going to keep moving along because I do want to get to at least looking at one or two properties before we finish this session. Okay. So now below how to use the site and training and support, we have our frequently asked questions page. Now this is a series of frequently asked questions with written responses. So again, this is questions you might have for yourself as you're looking at information and hearing statements from me and from Kurt, and you want to just kind of find out what does that mean that he referred to. Frequently asked questions is a very beneficial solution for that in a written format that you can go to 24/7. Below that is our forms page, and this is probably the most popular page other than the research section of the website. This is where we go to grab our forms, whether I have to give somebody 24-hour notice to enter a property as a new owner, whether I'm giving somebody a 3-day notice to quit, whether I'm going to go to a homeowner who's in default and offer to buy their property. The forms are here, and then we're here to also help you through them so you understand what to do and when to do it. So item number 22 is our real estate purchase contract and deposit receipt. This is your basic offer form that we use when we want to make an offer to someone, and it's created in a Word format where you can just simply print it out as a 2-pager and be ready to write offers. The key in approaching your opportunities is to get out there and make something happen by creating that energy between you and the potential seller of the property. Bottom line is this: what we want to do is we want to give ourselves as many opportunities to close a deal as possible. So we write offers. So this is our purchase contract, item 22. Now item 23 is a PDF of that contract that was filled out by Kurt as an example of one way that you can fill out the form. It gives you a lot of basic information on how to fill out the offer form in case you haven't done it. And again, we must encourage you to practice, okay? If you practice writing offers and then you go to someone's house and they're willing to accept an offer, then you're prepared to write that offer up. It takes just a minute or two, and then you can put that offer in their hands and ask them to sign it. Once you've got a signature on an offer, you're ready to open an escrow. That easy. So you got to make sure that you get to that point. So we have to research our properties online, approach the property owner, and write the offer up. So here's an example of a property here in Orange County in Fountain Valley that I brought to Kurt right off the website. And you'll notice on the bottom, here's the profile right from the website of a property with an equity position. Okay, and what happened is that Kurt went ahead and wrote up the offer subject to existing 2 loans, and then in his unusual way, Kurt is very, very focused on what he does, and he knows things that a lot of people don't. He came up with a 3rd loan as a seller carryback to close the deal without having to bring in a third-party lender by actually having the homeowner carry the paper. I wouldn't have thought of that, and he did. So in this particular solution to writing up an offer, Kurt said, I'm going to take over your 1st and your 2nd, and I'm going to ask you to carry the 3rd. And in this situation, he basically just promised payments of $1,800 a month as he was doing the flip. And then once the time came to do the sale of the property to the next owner, that he was going to pay about $435,000 to the seller after he sold the property himself. So that seller would get a check out of his escrow selling the property a 2nd time. So this is kind of a unique solution using creative financing, because what he had was a property where the homeowner had plenty of equity and he simply wasn't trying to involve a third-party lender so that the transactions would move cleanly. Okay, so in this particular case, we had a $938,000 property where the debt was only about $300,000. He wanted to make a fair offer and he needed to close that gap, and that's where he came up with the seller carrying back about $400,000. In other words, buying a $900,000 property for $700,000 and then turning around and selling it to an end buyer and then pocketing the difference. So that's an opportunity made by looking at the property profile, writing up the offer, and then presenting that offer to the current property owner and hoping that they'll they'll sign it and you open your escrow. And again, this is a very simple form. It's not for an agent acting as a third party, because if you're an agent and you use car forms, you know they're a lot more complicated. But from one buyer to another on an as-is purchase, I can do it with a very simple form. Okay, now if I close that out, I'm right back at my forms page. There are a variety of other forms here, so don't be afraid to ask about what they are and what they mean. We have our number 33 is our trustee sale bidding service power of attorney, and that's our very simple power of attorney that we use if we're going to represent someone at the auction, and therefore we're authorized to endorse cashier's checks at the auction. And what you do with the cashier's checks there is you simply have them written to yourself. And then if someone's acting on your behalf, they use the power of attorney. If you're going to the auction yourself, you simply there with your ID and you endorse them just like you would putting your own paycheck in the bank from a regular job. You endorse your cashier's checks at the auction, and the auctioneer then takes them and fills out a form at the auction that makes you the new owner. And if there is no one in the house, if it's completely vacant, then you own the property that day. You're welcome to go change the locks. If there's someone in the house, then you have to take steps, and that includes going to the property, putting a 24-hour notice on the property, and then once you come in the next day to be prepared to hand them a 3-day notice to quit the property. And all those forms are here. So this is our forms page. Below that, if we go further down the page, we have a complete section on foreclosure processing. That's because we've been processing foreclosures in this office for well over 20 years. And so County Records Research is your go-to source, not just for property data, but also if you need help with a loan on a property, whether you bought that loan from someone who was already a lender on a property and you did what Kurtz recommends in his 5 ways to buy, purchasing that loan at a discount, or if you simply want to know how the process works, okay? We process thousands of foreclosures. The process is not difficult. It's easy to understand, and this gives you all the necessary information if you want to learn more about it, okay? And if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate, because that's why we're here, to answer all your questions. Now below that is Q&A with Kurt. You recognize Kurt, sans beard. This is before, that picture is from before he grew his beard. But these are video answers, little short videos that we did with Kurt, answering specific questions about the company, about how to use the information and the benefits of using our services to get out there and buy properties. So don't hesitate if you have questions and you just want to hear more words of wisdom from Kurt, because that's always great to get a few more, again, pieces of the puzzle. The more pieces you have, the clearer the picture becomes. Okay, now below Kurt's photograph is another link to how to use the website. Those are those little screen capture videos. Now below that is our calendar of upcoming seminars. Since you're joining us live today, some of you might have come to us through this section on the site over here in our weekly GoToMeeting demonstrations. Now I want to just tell you that we do these demonstrations every Wednesday and Friday because we have new clients join us each week, but more importantly, we have people that want to refresh themselves on different features of the site. We also have people that want to join us every Friday to see more dissection of properties that are on their way to the foreclosure auction, both to see if they should make offers on those properties, but also to learn more about the entire process. So be aware that this is updated every Monday with a new GoToMeeting link for each of our meetings. So you're going to have a Wednesday and you're going to have a Friday with the hot links for those live meetings. Below that you have click here to view our previous demonstrations. This is a hot launch link to take you to YouTube. Okay, this takes you right to our YouTube channel, and then it starts the demonstration on one of our previous meetings. So I'm going to stop that because I don't want to hear myself talk. I'm sure you guys are going to have had enough of me by the time we hit 3:30, but we're going to keep at it. Now, so here's our links for the live meetings, and here's our link to go to our YouTube channel. And again, it's just County Records Research, just like the name of the company. Below that, you'll find our upcoming evening or live speaking events where Kurt's going to be. Of course, you joined Kurt on Monday, so you're familiar with this one here. He's also got one coming up in Orange County, the second week of January. So we're going to have a live event that evening. He's also going to be providing a foreclosure field trip in Orange County. I believe it's going to be in Santa Ana, and if we scroll up, sure enough, there it is. So whenever we have a live evening event, it's going to be down at the bottom. Whenever we have a field trip event, it's going to be up on the top, and then our webinars are always going to be in the center. So just bear in mind that this gets updated every few weeks, and it's going to have new information so that you know exactly where to meet Kurt if you want to go see him live. And then you'll also be able to join any of our webinars Wednesday or Friday if you want to join those live as well. Okay, now below our calendar of seminars button is our seminar highlight podcasts. These are audio recordings, and these are from previous meetings that we've done under specific topics. So foreclosure basics, buying from the owner, buying REOs and raising cash, and then buying into trustee sales. So these are audio recordings you can listen to on your iPod, in your car, wherever. Okay, below that is our blog. Now this is my little baby. This is what I do in terms of writing articles each month to demonstrate what other people have done. Okay, so what this is an ongoing magazine of articles of what people have done. So you'll notice we have different headers depending upon what I'm describing, and then as I go further down, we have an archive. So every month I'm adding at least one article, sometimes as many as 3 or 4, depending upon different deals that I happen to pick up on and get motivated to put on. So we've got properties in LA County, Orange County, Riverside County, a variety. So you'll find that it's always different. It's always a different property, and I'm trying to emphasize the reasoning behind what we do and emphasize also the amount of equity generated by any specific deal. So there's always going to be new articles on the blog every month to show what other people have done. Now, on that point, I'm going to go back to my home page, and I do want to point out for most of you that joined us by dropping off a card at the meeting, I have set you guys up to receive emails. So you are going to be receiving our Foreclosure Basics tutorial and notification of upcoming field trips. So I did specify for you guys to get those. We do have an affiliate program. That's, for instance, how we set up with Lisa to do the LA South REIA. So that's our affiliate program to work with different clubs and also organizations that want to promote county records research and maybe add this foreclosure search, this property search widget to a website. So if you ever want to add this search widget to a website, if you have a specific need, that's built into our affiliate program, and feel free to contact me and ask me more. But you guys have already been signed up for that information, so take advantage of it. Look at the emails as they come through. Now, let's do some looking at properties, okay? First of all, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my login option, and this is where I go ahead and log in with my username and my password. You all have a username and password. You should have received an automated email from the site when we set up your account. For those of you that haven't set up an account yet, shame on you. I'm kidding. No, but if you haven't set up an account yet, please do. Take advantage of the opportunity to get in here and take a look at information and see what you can see. Also notice on the upper right hand corner I have our live support button to join us on our chat line. This is not active at the moment, of course, because I'm doing the live presentation for the webinar, but in the morning we turn it on, in the afternoon when we leave we turn it off, but during the course of the day you have access to chat support, so you can ask us questions about specific properties or functions of the site, and we want to encourage you, ask questions. Oh, I just got a note that says the meeting is full. If you know of anyone that tries to get into the meeting today and couldn't make it in, let them know that I would like to get an email to bob@countyrecordsresearch.com. So if anybody that you know of tried to get into today's meeting and couldn't get in, we will set up a secondary meeting. We will do a repeat of today. We will also be uplinking this same meeting up to our YouTube channel, and I'm going to see if I can get that done this afternoon so that people can actually go to our YouTube channel tonight. Okay, but again, anybody that didn't get a chance to get in, please let them know to send me an email to bob@countyrecordsresearch so I know what emails to send out invitations to a new meeting. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Wow, that's exciting. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select property search. Now, I've just logged into my account. Whenever I log into my account, I get the welcome screen. Welcome, Bob Baker, and in your case, it'll have your name. Now, property search is our option to move ahead. It's on the left hand over here on the left of my name. It's also on the lower right in big letters. Now, remember what I said earlier about this being our navigation toolbar here on the left-hand side, or our dashboard, because once I go to the next page, it's no longer going to say property search down here. So rather than click on it down here, I'm just going to click on it over here on the left, and I'll be on my property search screen. Now notice the difference. First of all, I have all my county zones visible just like I did on the previous page, but now they're divided between states. Now I have my California tab with all my counties. I have Nevada and I have Arizona. When we add additional states, we'll have additional tabs up on top, one for each state. Now, I can search multiple zones at any time. So if I want to search Alameda County, I click to the box to the right. Let me point this out. A couple of things just for navigation purposes and the purpose of the presentation. I am using Google Chrome as my browser. I find that it's convenient, does everything I want it to do. You'll notice I have a tab up on top, one tab open and one tab in waiting, so to speak, for me to open up my next window in the browser. Now, similarly, I've got a little tab here, a little button that I can click on to highlight Alameda County, and it's to the right of the county. So again, the box to check to select a county is to the right of it. Okay. Now, if I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right county, I put my cursor over the header for the county, and I get a little dialog window that opens up and gives me some cities, so I make sure I'm looking in the right place. Okay. So Alameda County has got the city of Oakland. If I wanted to search Oakland, I'd pick Alameda County. So if I've checked it, it's highlighted in blue. If I check it a second time, that'll clear it, and now it's no longer highlighted. So I've unselected Alameda. Now I could select multiple counties and search them all at the same time. Now, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of less is more, okay? There's a reason for that. I like to be focused on what I'm doing. It's easy to get distracted by the numbers and to let yourself get overwhelmed if you have too intense a volume of properties. So for me, I like to focus on a target area. So being that most of the attendees today are from the LA South REIA, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say let's select LA County South. Now, if I wasn't sure what cities that would include, I put my cursor over the word South. I get a nice hefty list of incorporated cities in South Los Angeles County. Now, similarly, I could add Orange County to the report as well, but again, I want to focus. So I'm going to pick LA County South for my research. Now, I'm going to scroll down a little bit to my single property search section. Now notice this is single property search. This is a section that I use to research in depth on a property that I've already found. So this is a known property. So if I had a property that I had been following on Main Street, I could type in the word Main in the second box under the street name. If it was 123 Main Street, I could type 123 in the top box, okay? If I have the parcel number, APN, I would put that in the third box here, and I would do further research. You're going to learn more about this section on Friday, but we're going to look at it a little bit today. This winds up being your favorite section of the site because it allows you to do in-depth research and see if a property has a history, and see if a property has got multiple foreclosures on that same parcel. Because you can have a property that's got multiple loans. You can have a property that has an HOA. You could have a property that's got 3 active foreclosures at the same time. Okay, so the important thing to do when we're looking at our research potential is to understand that the website allows us to do more in-depth research to see if the loan information has changed and to also see if there are multiple foreclosures at the same time. That affects our strategy and how we go about buying the property. The fourth option is our trustee sale reference number. I don't use this one very often, once in a while, if I happen to know what the trustee sale reference number is, okay? But I generally use the parcel number more often, and the first choice I normally have is just typing in the street address number. Like I said, 123 Main Street, 123 usually pulls it right up, and almost every time it's right at the top of the list, so it really works really well. You'll see when we start showing you how to use it. Now, below our single search is the workhorse of the site. This is our general property search section. Now you notice when we have our general property search open, we have a choose one section, and there are 7 categories here. Notice the default file will always be selected when you come to this section. So what you'll have is you'll have a notice of default search option, and you'll have a date range below by listed date. We call this our listed or added date, and this is the date that we post the record to the site. Okay, so this is the date that I post the record to the site, so any new records entered on today's date would have a listed date of 12/14, or today's date. That's why 12/14 is in the right-hand box. okay? Because what this is telling us is if we're going to search notices of default today, we're going to see ones that were new on November 30th all the way to today, or a 2-week range of new records. So if I were to just simply go down here and hit my search button, notice it says search without polygon. I'm going to scroll down just a hair and show you our polygon map, okay? Notice we have a search polygon button and a search without, okay? I'm not doing a polygon yet, so I'm not going to use the polygon button. Okay, I'll show you that in just a moment. Now, if I hit search without polygon with notices of default selected and a date range that was given to us, the 2-week range, if I hit search, I'll get all the notices of default that we received for our Los Angeles County South Zone within that range of dates. Now notice in my browser I've got now 2 open windows. I've got the search results window with the map and the list of properties, and I've got my main page, County Records Research. So whenever we're in the browser and we have multiple windows, we can always return back to our main page in case I want to use that single property search and investigate a property. Okay, and that's important, as we'll find out. Now notice I have a map on top and a list of addresses below, and these are our notices of default. One of the things about our notice of default records is they are the first stage in foreclosure, so they're not going to give a huge amount of detail, especially in this particular page. Now, once I want to find out more about a property, I can click on the address and learn more about it. But now we're just going to go over some general instructions on how to use this map page that apply to notices of default, but they also apply to sale notices, the other main type of document that we research. Now, first of all, notice I have a map in the list below, and above the map it says map reflects 0 to 20 of, and in this case 198 total records. So I have about 200 records. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, because I've got more than 20, I'm going to go down here below the map on the left-hand side. Notice I have a button that says print, send by email, then it says show 20, 40, 60. So I want it to show me 60 properties per page. So I'm just going to take my mouse and click on the 60 one time, left clicking. Now, now that's funny. So this is what happens when geocoding doesn't do what we want it to do. We get a property that says it's in Florida when this is actually in Southgate. Okay, so there's an unwitting family in Southgate that just had themselves moved to Florida, but don't worry, they're still in Southgate. It's just that the map is a little off from that particular piece of geocoding. So every once in a while we get something that's a little kind of comical, and that's that. So don't worry about that, because your properties are all right here. Okay, so this map, this is how the map should have looked, but we had that one errant property out in Florida. Okay, just got an odd request there. Hold on a moment. All right, so now what we have is we have a list of properties that we have that are in South LA County. Okay, now so you've got these orange push pins on the map. Every property is represented on the map by an orange push pin. So here's one over in Palos Verdes. If I put my cursor over it, that I'm going to get a little dialog window that's going to open up, and we have an address for the property. And we also have some basic information. So this is on a big lot. This is a big house, 3,646 square feet on a 15,103 square foot lot. Okay, and this is on Cartier Drive in Rancho Palos Verdes. It looks like it's right near the water. So this might be a nice view property. Okay, now the property itself will be on this list below. Okay, but it will also be on the map. Now I can open the property by simply scrolling my mouse cursor over onto the Cartier Drive address. Notice what happens. The address turns red under my mouse. So notice the address has turned red underneath my mouse, which means it's hot, red hot. Okay, so if I left click, I open the profile. So this is a property profile on our site. Now the notice of default records and the notice of trustees sale, the profiles are very similar, but there are some obvious nuance differences because a notice of default is the beginning of foreclosure and not the end. Okay, so since a notice of default is at the very beginning, we're not going to have all the details in terms of what it's going to cost to pay the lender off most of the time, because that's what we find out towards the end when the house is set to go to auction. Instead, what we're going to have is we're going to have an amount that the lender is asking for to bring the loan current, and I'm emphasizing most of the time because I'm observing on this particular property that we have a delinquent amount that's through the roof here. We have a delinquent amount of $176,400. That's a large sum when you look at a loan that's only $105,000. Okay, so I'm noticing that the delinquent amount is much too high for this to be a standard default. This has got to be a balloon note style foreclosure, because quite obviously the amount in delinquency should be 10% of this if this person's only missed a few payments. Okay, that's a very large delinquent amount. That's an amount I'd expect to see on a notice of sale for a loan of this size. So this, we're going to go ahead and use this as a basic example of a property profile. So first of all, notice on the right hand side I have a map. Fortunately, it's not Florida. Okay, so on the right-hand side, I have a map, and on the left-hand side, I have the loans. Okay, so map on the right, loans on the left. Okay, so the map allows us some functions. For instance, now, I like to zoom in and out using the wheel on my mouse because that gives me a lot of flexibility and control. I can gradually zoom in and out on this property profile. I was actually expecting it to be even closer to the coast than it is, but this is okay. So now I'm zooming in to get a better look at the property, and I'm going to hit my bird's eye option, and there's our house. So we've got a house with a pool, driveway obviously, nice big house. Now notice I've got these little curly Q arrows here on the left hand side, so I can use this to change my perspective and see the property from different angles. So I get a sense of what I've got going on here with this particular property, using the bird's eye view and using the semicircle with the arrowhead to change my perspective as if I'm hovering around it in a helicopter. Okay, so again, that just gives me a different look at the property. Okay, I can switch to aerial. Sometimes you'll find that the bird's eye doesn't come in. Aerial gives us a different perspective. Same house, same information, but just a different satellite view. So sometimes you'll find that the aerial and the bird's eye, you'll have a one or the other option, or sometimes you'll have a very new property and the bird's eye will give you tilled soil, and then the aerial will give you the actual house. So depending upon the property, different functions of the website serve us better. I also have a street view option if I want to see what the house looks like from the street, to make sure as I pull up into it in my vehicle that I have the right house. Okay, so it's always important to know you're at the right house. Now also, let me point out that we have a mobile version of our website. If you ever go into the site through a tablet or a smartphone and you want to use the mobile version, first of all, it's easier to get in. You don't have to use the little screen capture word. There's no security word into the phone, but also it's a much simpler function. You're not going to be able to see all the little bells and whistles you have here on the main site where you can go watch the little videos, because the function of the mobile site is to go look at properties, and more importantly, it has a nearby feature using GPS, so you can actually look at properties within a certain distance when you're out in the field. So the mobile site works really well if you have people on your team that are going to travel to different locations and check out properties, or if they in a specific area want to see if there are any available properties that they can check out, specifically if you're door knocking. So take advantage of the mobile site, take a look at it. We welcome your questions. We think it's a really nice version of the site. It's not an app, though. It's just a mobile version of the website. And if you go to log in through your smartphone, you'll be given the option to check it out. Okay, so that being said, map on the right, loans on the left. Now the homeowner is under owner here at the top. Now notice we have a status of notice of default. If this was a notice of sale, then it would either say notice of sale or it will say sale date, or it'll say postponed. So the status on a notice of default doesn't change. On that point, let me point out, first of all, notices of default, as I said earlier, don't have as much information as a notice of sale does, because once we go to the notice of sale stage, the point of the sale notice is it sets the auction date. This one doesn't have that yet because this is a notice of default. It has a delinquent amount and an as of date, so this is the date the lender pulled the trigger and started the foreclosure by issuing a notice of default. You'll notice some websites call a notice of default a pre-foreclosure. Okay, that's kind of a misnomer, because a notice of default is in fact the first notice in the foreclosure process. Okay, although that became a coined phrase, pre-foreclosure, for somebody that has a notice of default but no notice of sale yet. Okay, so just keep in mind a notice of default will predate a notice of sale by 3 months or 90 days as a minimum by state code. Now, the lender can take longer, but they can't take shorter than 90 days to issue the notice of sale. So on this particular property, we know for a fact that this foreclosing lender cannot issue a notice of sale for 90 days, and the as of date we have is 11/21 of 2016, November 21st. So we have December, January, February 21st is the first date the lender can issue a notice of sale to schedule an auction, and by state code they have to wait another 21 days, so we're looking at March. Mid-March for this lender to hold an auction. Okay, I have until then to try and lock this thing down the old-fashioned way. Go to these folks and make an offer. Now, a couple of points. We have 3 loans. The second's foreclosing. Notice that we put the red star on the second. Notice also all these loans are from November of 06. Kind of an odd mix here, okay? Because this guy took out 3 loans within a week of each other. That's just kind of odd to me. So whenever I see this kind of circumstance, I always ask myself, because this has already presented an odd question to me, is why does this particular property, why does he owe $176,000 on a $100,000 loan? Okay, so there's some real, on the delinquency, I would expect it on the sale notice. So there's some challenges here. I would have to do more research on this particular property to figure out what's going on. What I can tell you is this: if the $100,000 second's up to 176, how much do you think he owes on the 1.2 million or $1.3 million first? Because that's 1.29. That's basically 1.3. If he almost doubled his second, is it possible that he's almost doubled his first? I'd say so. Okay, so one of the first things that we teach you to do is do research. So I'm going to go down here. Notice that below the map and the loans, we have our property details section. We have a beneficiary who's the lender, in this case, Sharon B. Bell. This is a private lender on this second. So this is becoming more and more interesting to me. That's what kind of a note that we would recommend you consider trying to purchase at a discount for a junior lender buyout if we can confirm that he doesn't owe $2 million on this first loan. Because that's my suspicion here, is this guy hasn't made a payment in a long time. So this is what the single property search option is all about. And I'm trying to move pretty quickly here because we're down to our last 15 minutes of the presentation, so bear with me. So now watch what I do. I'm going to copy this parcel number by left clicking and dragging my mouse. It's now highlighted. I'm going to right click and select copy. Now watch what I do. I'm going to go up on top. I've got my 3 tabs for my open windows, and I'm going to select the far left County Records Research main page, scroll up, and here's where I drop in my parcel number to do my research on a single property search option, and I'm going to hit search. Now, the reason I'm doing that is I want to see if we have other records in the system on this same house, and lo and behold we do, and I had a suspicion we would. What I have now is I have this, this historical record going back to 2008 for his first notice of default. So this property has literally been in foreclosure for about 8 years. Okay, we have notices of default going back to 08 on a first, second, and a third. So what we have is we've got a property with 3 loans actively foreclosing since 2008. So the first has in fact tried to foreclose on this property. And notice that I've got a record up here that says it's on the first from 2014. that shows that he owed $1.5 million on that first 2 years ago. Okay, so 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, he owed 1.5 million on that first. So my hunch that he owes close to 2 million is not that far off the mark, is it? Okay, so if I determine that he owes more on the first than I'm willing to spend, then buying the second, even for $1, is a waste of money. Okay, so our strategy is always reflective of our research, and our research is reflective of our willingness to simply look under the next rock, so to speak, in terms of determining the information that we need to know whether or not we should pursue that property in a certain way. I would think this property I would want to buy with the first foreclosing and hope that they discount it at the auction. I have a sense that this fella hasn't made a payment on any of these loans in a fairly long time. So I'd be very careful about how I do this. Notice that we also have a third that was foreclosing this year, and they were owed $91,000 on that third earlier. So this is on the third that was originally a $50,000 note back in November of 06. He owes about $100,000 on that third. That one's doubled as well. So I'd say it looks like all three of these loans are pretty much doubled. So we'd want to be very careful with this particular property. You could make this fellow a short sale offer, but I have a very strong feeling that he's going to stay there as long as he can without making a payment, because he's pretty good at it, wouldn't you say? Okay, so now in this particular property, you could make a short sale offer. I don't know if he'll take it. I think he's going to stick it out because he's living in a beautiful home right by the water, rent-free. So I don't think he's got a lot of reason to move. He's got no equity in the property, so there's no point in trying to make an offer and offer him cash because he's gotten all of the free money he could possibly want. Now, what's going to happen is eventually this first is going to take the property to auction. If either this second or this third takes it to auction, nobody will buy it, because he owes the first more than what either of us is willing to spend. Okay, now also notice a few more points. The property address on Cartier is down here under property details. It's also listed as their primary residence, their mailing address. So they live in the house. They've been living there, you know, again, in and out of foreclosure since 2008, and they're going to stick it out as long as they can. That's my observation on this particular property. Now, this is a notice of default record, so there's no auction information down here below. Okay, we simply have the lender and then it stops. We do have access to property taxes if we want to investigate their tax information. Okay, I'm really kind of looking at this one as a dead end for the moment, because until that first files a brand new foreclosure notice, which I'm guaranteeing you they will, this one I think is off the table. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Notice I have a red box with an X in it above the map section. I can also go up here in my tab and click on the little X here at the top. I'm going to do that, and that closes out the profile, and I'm back to my list. Now, looking at this basic list, I can sort by city, by zip code, by lot size, by square footage, by estimated value if I have a certain dollar target. I can also sort by street address if I'm looking for something in particular. I can also see loan positions. Notice we have loan positions 3, 2, 1. So every property has a specific loan for closing. We've identified the other loans, and in the senior junior loan column we're identifying what the other loans might be. In this case we have a house in Montebello on Maiden Lane with a foreclosing third, but there's senior debt of $80,000. Our system is comparing the amount owed on that third plus the $80,000, because the $80,000 is senior to it, and they're telling us auction equity is a positive number, 384. So our system is telling us this property in Montebello has an equity position because the auction equity is positive, and because it looks like we have a foreclosing third and all the other debt is ahead of it. So adding all the loans together, because the third's in charge here, the system is telling us we've got $384K in equity. This Montebello property looks like one to go make an offer subject to existing loans and take over their payments, give them some cash to move along, and simply take it through an escrow. Buy it the old-fashioned way. Don't be shy to make folks offers, because the key here is this. If we don't buy a property from the homeowner, they're going to lose it to the auction. Now, not all of us have the cash to buy it at the auction, which is why the option to buy the property directly from the homeowner is very enticing, especially if we're not in a position at this time to go bid at the trustee sale. Remember, that's cash on the barrelhead. If we're making offers to the homeowners, we don't need to spend as much cash, unless, of course, we're making a short sale offer. Again, don't feel that you're obligated to buy one way or another. Let the details of the property spell out your methodology. Okay, now I'm going to close out this record by clicking on the X. Now, actually, I'm not going to click this X up here. I'm going to go over here on the right, and I'm going to select Return to Property Search and close it out. Now, notice this takes me back to my single property search option for that property on Cartier. I'm going to go ahead and close that out by clicking on the X, and I'm right back at my property search screen. Now, we're going to do some basic tips of doing a search setup. First of all, we just looked at what notices of default look like, right? Now we're going to pick upcoming trustee sales. Look at the difference. I've selected upcoming trustee sales, and now what I have is auction dates instead. Remember, with NODs, it gave me that listed date, the date that we added it to the site. With notices of sale, it gives me auction dates, because it's assuming I want to see stuff that's coming up in the near future as opposed to stuff that just got added in the recent past. So in the near future, in the next 2 weeks, if I do a quick search of upcoming trustee sales, now remember, what did we have for notices of default? We had a little under 200 properties, right? 198, okay? Now, if I go to upcoming sales, watch how many I get. And this is just for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to hit my search without polygon. So I got 287. I got about an extra 100 properties by looking at upcoming trustee sales. Okay, now, so here's my upcoming trustee sales records. Notice that we have more information on these. We have a status, we have an auction date, the sale date, we have a sold amount. Okay, so we have a lot more information. Now, the auction equity figure is still here, the loan position is still here, and our senior junior loan information is here, but we have more. With the status, we know if the auction's still scheduled or if it's been canceled. This particular property in Bellflower went to auction today, and the lender has taken it at the auction. Notice back to beneficiary. That means the same thing as REO. So this particular property is now an REO, this property on Cornuta Avenue in Bellflower. Now, these other properties have been canceled. These were set to go to auction today, and these sales have all been canceled. Now, I got to tell you, most of the time a cancellation takes place doesn't necessarily mean the homeowner's out of the woods. Okay, as a matter of fact, a lot of your cancellations these days are because a homeowner has filed bankruptcy, or they've attained a modification, or someone like you or me has gone to the house and made an offer and got an escrow open. Now, properties can fall out of escrow. Modifications can be unapproved, okay? And bankruptcies can get thrown out. So a lot of your canceled sales come right back to the system. Let me give you an example. Look at here, this property here on 5th Street in Inglewood. This has a value of $482,000. Our amount owed to the lender is $615,000. So if they owed over $100,000, almost $200,000 more than the value of their home, do you think they actually brought that loan current? I think not. I think what happened is the lender canceled for a different reason. So let's find out. I'm going to open up 5th Street. Okay, so now what I see is I see a property where it looks like the trustor is Tahisha, and the owner is this fellow artist, 2 different names. That's kind of odd. Okay, it strikes me as odd. So now, there was a change of ownership here. Okay, now the mailing address and the property address are the same, so it is a primary residence. The loan is from 2006. Purchase date's 2005. So this was a refinance loan. Okay, they originally borrowed 608, and at this time they owed 615, and the sale was canceled. They probably got a modification, I'm guessing. okay? But they could have also filed a bankruptcy to stop it. Now, it doesn't say what it's postponed for down here, so I don't know. Now, if I suspect that the lender is going to refile a new notice of sale, then there's a way that I can catch that. I can go down here to the bottom of the page and I can say, email me when the status changes. This is our setup for status change updates on notices of sale. Now, this is a very helpful function of the site. I'm just going to select status change and put in my email address. Now, this is only on notice of sale records, okay? Not on notice of default. What I'm doing is I'm typing in my email address, bob@countyrecordsresearch.com. Remember that because that's the email to send your questions to me to. And so I'm going to say submit. So I just submitted my request and it's just there it is. Now it's accepted it. So now what I just did is I just created an automated update function for the site to let me know if a new notice of sale comes out. And the reason I'm saying it'll work that way is this. If this lender sets up a new sale notice, the trustee sale number will be the same. This number here is an identifier for a file. That will stay the same. The parcel number for the property itself will stay the same. And so the update request I just made will apply to a new notice of sale on this same property, even though the lender is going to create a whole brand new notice of sale. Now, the same function works if this was simply a postponed sale or an upcoming sale. So now that you know how to do that, you can, anytime you want, request a status update on a record. Now, notice also if I scroll up to the top, I've got this map here again on the right. I can zoom in and out. But notice I've got a save button on top too. So if I want to save it, I can save it to my general folder here on the left, or use my drop-down menu to select any of the folders that I've got. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of my subfolders I've created before. It's called Bob's Houses. So I'm going to save this to Bob's Houses, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay. Now, what I've just done is I've just saved the property record to my Bob's Houses folder. Now, I've zoomed out a little bit because I just wanted to take a look at this particular property to see where it's at. Now, it's right above the 105 in between the 110 and the 405. Okay, so now watch what I'm going to do is I'm running a little bit over, but I want to show you guys this because I wanted to make sure I showed you this. So watch what I do. I'm going to go back to my main page tab by hitting County Records Research, and then I'm going to scroll down a little bit to my polygon. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and remember what we talked about. Let's see, where is that 105? The 105 is right there. So remember what I said, that particular property on the map, it's right above this little bend here in between the 110 and the 405, just north of the 105, okay? So notice it's right in this section right here. So I'm going to use my polygon map. Now what I do is I can move the map around, I can zoom in and out. Once I've got my area selected, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select putting a dot right there, and then I'm going to put a second dot. This is left clicking. I put a second dot, so I've connected the 405 to the 110. And I'm going to put a third dot right at the junction of the 105 and the 110. And then I'm just going to carry my line along the 120th Street just below the 105 all the way over to the 405 again. Okay, and don't worry if it's a little sloppy because you're just trying to get a target area, right? So now I've got one side of this trapezoid left, one side of this box left, and that's right along the 405 freeway. Now, I know what I want to connect, but connecting these last 2 points is always the most difficult part on a polygon. So I'm going to go over here to the button that says Close Polyshape and click it one time, left click. Now I've just created my polygon that includes the target area for that particular property, okay? And I can get real down and dirty. I can do it to a few blocks. I can target a specific housing development, okay, with how I shape my polygon. So I've just created my polygon to cover this LA South territory, and I'm going to scroll up a little bit, and I'm going to see, okay, I've got upcoming sales. That's what I'm interested in. I'm not worried about the auction date range, because when I save one of these records, what I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to save a search that I can use whenever, and the dates don't matter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the save option. I'm going to hit save this search right up on top. Okay, so I've just hit save this search, and now I've got a name box that's just opened up below it. And just to look back at this, this is my kind of Lennox Athens, because Lennox is there and Athens is there. So I'm going to call this my Lennox Athens Polygon. Now I'm going to probably run out of space, because I've also got to say NTS for notice of sale. And I'm putting poly for, oh, I did have enough. So I've got enough to write Lennox Athens NTS poly. So whenever I get a record that comes up from this automated search function, I'm going to get an email that tells me exactly what's in it, because I'll know the name of this search. So watch what happens when I hit save. Okay. Now I've just been transported to my saved searches page, which is available as part of my account. Now, you haven't got all these saved searches yet because you just started the service, but I can help save searches for you, and I can teach you how to set up these searches just like I've done right now. So this particular saved search wound up at the bottom of the page here. This is my Lennox Athens NTS Polygon. Now notice some of these are highlighted in blue and this one's not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the activate notifications options here on the right, and watch what happens. It's now highlighted in blue, which means I have just created an automated function. So I just created the Lennox Athens Polygon specifically for notices of sale. I have now selected the activate notifications option, so now I'm going to have an automatic researcher that's looking in that little polygon. Now watch what happens. If I click on the Lennox Athens Polygon, by clicking on the header, the system just took me back to my property search screen. It populated the zone that I picked out to start with, and if I scroll down, there's that little polygon again, right? Now remember, I selected upcoming sales, so I'd only get notices of trustee sale, right? Watch what I do now is I'm going to select notices of default instead, and then I'm going to hit save this search a second time. Now, what the system just did is it just memorized everything again, memorized the polygon, memorized the zone, but now it's notices of default. So I'm going to call this my Lennox Athens NOD poly. Okay. Oops, I misspelled Lennox. I put an S instead of an X, so I want to fix that. Okay, so I want to know what it is, and then I'm going to hit save. And now I've got my second saved search. Okay. And so this particular search is now my NODs. I'm going to activate it as well. Now I've just saved two search functions. I've activated those records. Now remember I told you that I was saving that one property? Now notice that on this page I've got my saved searches, but up on top I've got more folders. Okay, thanks Rich, talk to you soon. I've got more folders if I want to go and save things. And my properties folder is where I just saved that property that we were just looking at in Inglewood. Here's the one. Okay. Now my manage folders button is one where I can change the names of those folders, because remember when I went to save it, I dropped it into the Bob's Houses folder, and remember that I had right next to the save button on the property profile is I had that drop-down menu that said general folder, and I scrolled down to Bob's Houses. I can do the same thing right here if I want to open up that file and see that's where I just dropped in that Inglewood property. Now, how did I create that Bob's Houses folder? I just went to my Manage Folders tab, and this is all my list of saved folders. Notice it's a big list. I've been busy, okay? Now, on your account, you don't have all these yet. You have this right here. This section right here is going to be all the way up on top, like, because none of these will be there yet, okay? And if I want to create a new folder, and I just want to sit here and type in the name, and hit add folder, that's how it drops it in right there. So that's my XXXX folder, right, that I just created right there in order to populate a folder in my subfolder categories to drop properties into. Now if I want to get rid of it, I just check the box and I hit delete. Now this is true whether I want to delete a property profile or anything else. I will get this confirmation box that says, are you sure you want to do this? And then I hit OK, and that closes it out. Okay, so now I just got rid of that folder that I just created. So that's how we create a folder. So we've learned how to save a property to our folders. We've learned how to create a folder to drop that property into. We've learned how to save an NOD polygon search. We've learned how to save an NTS polygon search. If I go back to my searches, I can open up any of my done folders. Here's one for Orange County. This one's my Fountain Valley polygon search that I saved from before. I can open that one up and then I can start a search on it right away looking for properties in that target area. So as we're looking at different opportunities, we can change our search functions. We can save specific searches for those specific areas. We can automate any of these searches in our My Searches folder by choosing the Activate Notifications option and highlighting them in blue. We can save properties to our My Properties folder by hitting that Save button on top of the map. Now, once I've saved them into this folder, I can transfer them from one folder to another by selecting the property by clicking on the little box and then choosing to move it to one of my other folders, okay? So I can move my properties around, I can save them, I can add new folders to drop them into. I have a lot of different options of what I can do with this property information. Now, as we're doing our exploration on the website, we are going to learn different strategies that we want to use personally to organize ourselves. Now, I showed you how to do an email notification on that one property that was a canceled sale. Notice all these are email notifications that I've set up. As we save information into our My Properties folder, all of these properties are going to get updated as we go. If it's a notice of sale record, the status will get updated. Notice some of these say canceled, some of these say postponed, this one says auctioned. So as the information is updated, our records are updated in our My Properties folder. Okay, now you can go ahead and save searches on the site. Ask me for help if you need doing it. You can save properties and then organize them by various property folders by creating and deleting folders as you go. And then as you're using the data, don't hesitate to call us and ask us questions or send emails with a specific address, like bob@countyrecordsresearch.com is an address that you can send information to if you ever need help. Okay, thank you so much for taking advantage of this Wednesday webinar on how to set up an account and how to use the property information. Please don't hesitate to give us a call the next time you have a property in question. The profiles themselves illustrate a lot of the information. The single property search allows us to do further research to make sure we know the difference between a good deal and a bad one. And finally, remember this, there are 5 ways to buy a property, but the research is the key. We have to know what we're looking at, and we have to have an idea of how much we're willing to spend and ask ourselves, how can I get there? And what we're going to be doing on Friday is we're going to be looking at those specific questions. Now I just got a question from somebody on how to export a search to Excel. Very good question. So I'm going to show you that. First of all, if I pick my search parameters and go down to my property search screen, general property search, then instead of standard as my report format, I just pick Excel, and then I can go ahead and hit my search button. Now what the system will do is it'll ask me if I want to download, and I click on that option. Then I just hit the option to open it up. Now you should get this request from your system to see whether or not you should trust the source. Always say yes. Always trust County Records Research. That was a line from a movie. I know I've heard that line before, but you can always trust us as a source, and you're going to find whenever you do this Excel report, you're going to have all the same information that's on your regular property profiles. You're going to have the address and the city for the property. You're also going to have the address and the city for the mailing address. They're almost always going to be the same, but not always. Sometimes you'll have a property that's not owner occupied, like a rental property, income property, where the two addresses are different. Okay, like this one here in Compton, where the property address is 131st Street. Oh, I lied. It is the same address. Okay, so these are the same address. So all of these look the same on these properties so far. So you will get to a point where you will find a property where the information is different. And whenever you do that, just simply means that the property owner is not residing at the property. That's most commonly going to be, for instance, on South Bay properties, when you have like a duplex or a fourplex, and the owner of the property does not reside at the particular property. If you ever have that kind of a situation, or like in this case where we have a P.O. box, okay, then that's when you're going to see a difference between the two. It only really matters if I'm sending out mailers in this case, or if I just want to make sure that I'm knocking on the right door. Now I got to tell you, sometimes you will have like a situation like this where you can send the offer to the P.O. box. You can still go to the house in Cerritos and knock on the door and talk to the current resident. If they're a renter, they should have contact information for their landlord. They should at least have a phone number. Chances are you'll be able to get even more information, or you're going to find out that the owner still lives at the property and they're just using a P.O. box to get their mail. Okay, but look at this one here in San Pedro. This is on Upland Avenue, and the property, we have an address on Gaffey. So it looks like these are two different addresses altogether. Okay, so this has been Bob with County Records Research. This has been our Wednesday webinar. We went over a little bit this time, but I wanted to make sure I covered some points, and I wanted to make sure that you know you can ask us questions whenever you need help. Join us on Friday for more information, and join us each Wednesday and Friday until you get to the point where you can do this on your own. And don't hesitate to ask us questions on specific properties. That's how we get to the next level, and that's how we close our first deal. Thanks again.